Aside from the people that depend on you financially, are there people that miss you when you are out of reach? In other words, is there or are there people in your space, in your life, that want you as a person, not just as a resource that can be dispensed with if benefits come from another direction? Are there? It is exciting to be on set for another episode of Social Realities. My name is Udarasi. The topic of today's discourse is social intelligence. By way of introduction, I want to begin by saying that there is a need for the educational curriculum used here in Africa to be reviewed and upgraded. How do I mean? I went to primary school, secondary school, and tertiary school. And all through that period, not once did any of my teachers or lecturers mention the existence of something like social intelligence, not to talk of talking about its importance. And yet, when I started looking for a job after my graduation, I had employers and interview panels ask me about soft skills, social skills. And over the years, I have begun to observe that there seems to be a disparity between what we are taught in school and what the marketplace expects of us. And this has led to a gradual loss of confidence in formal education. This should not be so. It is not so in the developed countries. As a matter of fact, there is nothing that man has invented by way of technology that has taken the place of formal education. As a matter of fact, also, the developed world feeds fat from Africa's illiteracy and indolence. Every one of us needs literacy to be able to access health, safety, and comfort, not just in the short term, but especially in the long term. Literacy is what gives us access to all-round health, to all-round comfort, and to long-term security. Now, every one of us needs 7 kinds of literacy to be in optimum health and to make the best of life. 1 is general literacy. The second is vocational literacy. The third is social literacy. And then the fourth is professional literacy. The fifth is entrepreneurial literacy. Did I mention financial literacy? And of course, there is spiritual literacy. None of these blocks of literacy can be dispensed with. Every one of them that any individual lacks represents the area by which that particular individual is exploited, either by another individual or by a corporate system. Intelligence is the input, literacy is the output, and proof of literacy is well-being and security, either at the individual level or at the societal level. In other words, your results, either as a person or collectively as a people, are the all-time indicators of the blocks of literacy you command. All through history, man has repeatedly displayed this tendency to discard discipline whenever he experiences abundant flow of resources. Discipline is required to acquire intelligence and apply intelligence. And currently, in the world we live in today, the widespread breakdown of productivity and security The growing incidence of loneliness, depression, depravity are all testaments of the fact that man for some time now has been moving away from the discipline of social intelligence. And in order for us to get out of where we have found ourselves, we have to go back and embrace social intelligence. I say it over and over. Nothing you have and nothing you value can be retained in its form of value if you lack social intelligence. Everything you are working so hard to build, your looks, your home, your physical stature, your financial stature, a brand, a career, etc. None of these things will give you lasting satisfaction if your social IQ is low. So what is social intelligence? When do you need it? What do you suffer when you lack social intelligence? Let me take this one by one. Social intelligence is the ability to recognize, interpret, appropriate, and regulate thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Man begins to need social intelligence when he begins to make choices for himself by himself. That means infancy, because you will agree with me that soon after a baby is born, the baby begins to make choices in terms of preferring certain kinds of food, preferring certain kinds of people to handle him or her. That means right from infancy, we all have social need of social intelligence in order to be able to regulate our choices rather than just live by impulse. You see, what you want is not always what you need. Without social intelligence, human beings live solely for pleasure and live only in the moment, solely in the moment. Social intelligence allows us to project into the future and make adequate provision for that future while still living in the present. Social intelligence gives us capacity to relate rather than react to our internal and external environment. It also enables us to interact positively with ourselves, with people, and with God. There are three cardinal outputs of social intelligence. Every human being constantly craves it, regardless of their gender and age. What are these? Respect, affection, and attention. From the time we are born right until the time we are laid to rest, man is very big on respect, affection, and attention. A lot of things done on a day-to-day basis are either to enforce respect or attract attention or receive affection. But interestingly, the extent to which you can enjoy these three is first of all the extent to which you give it to yourself. You see, to be respected by others, you must first respect yourself. So you give yourself respect before you qualify to expect it, and you also qualify to get it from others. 2. To enjoy affection and love from others, you must first value yourself enough to give yourself love and affection. And 3. To attract external attention, you must first pay attention to yourself by investing value in yourself. Nobody gets attracted, nobody gives attention to what is not valuable. So it goes without saying that if you're going to enjoy attention from outside, which is something that gratifies us, you must first invest in yourself what will cause you to be noticed and valued. How do you recognize someone who is low on social intelligence? 1. Inability to sustain relationships. 2. Inability to make choices that augur well, especially in the long run. Inability to retain success. Someone with low social IQ tends to keep going up only to come down. Other indicators: a spate of abandoned projects. These people are good at starting. They are wonderful at the beginning, but have a challenge with sustaining and with completing what they start. Others include incessant change of occupation, inability to recover from setbacks and from pain. These people have a tendency to live in the past. Also, people with low social IQ are unable to adapt to change. They operate or live in isolation over time. They suffer loneliness. They swing into depravity or live in depression and, of course, indolence. Why? Because social intelligence gives us capacity to sustain success and power. And so when we lack social intelligence, we also lack capacity to sustain success and power. People with low social IQ have a tendency to abuse success and abuse power. And there is a law of life. What you abuse, you eventually lose. And of course, another reason for these indicators is that happiness remains a mirage as long as you are low on social IQ. And finally, it takes social intelligence to turn your pain into your gain. Finally, there's this increasing tendency of humanity to bear and vent emotions on the social media. This is because a growing number of people see the social media as a shortcut to building meaningful social ties that provide support and validation. In the past, we depended on our social circles for support and validation. But in recent times, we have begun to think that we can bypass those social circles and get that support or validation from the social media. Now, it is true that there is support and there is, to some extent, validation. But if that were all, why are people still lonely in spite of so many followers on the social media? In fact, there has been this growing concern and opinion that the social media is causing the breakdown in relationships, is costing family time, and so on and so forth. Now, I happen to have a different opinion. I believe that social media is like money. Money is neither good nor bad. Social media is neither good nor bad. Money amplifies what is already inside of a person. Most people exercise restraint when they lack sufficient funds. But the moment they have sufficient funds, their true color comes out. Social media does the same thing. Social media amplifies your strength and also amplifies your flaws. And so, whereas in the past, it was just a small circle of either your friends or family that recognized and talked about your flaws. Today, thousands and millions of people get information about your flaws at the same time and react to it immediately. And so something that was initially a shortcut is gradually becoming a very long cut. Because when people get back at you from your flaws, sometimes it takes a very long time to recover. And so, in conclusion, I would say social media is supposed to be an enabler for social engagement within our social circles. But for us to have meaningful engagement in our social circles, we need social intelligence.